Here's a cinematic-style long-form article you can use for YouTube narration. It flows like a continuous story, around 1600 words, without headings, so it feels natural for an engaging documentary-style voiceover. The year was 1965, and British motoring was at a golden peak. The Austin-Healey 3000 Mk3, known simply as the Big Healey, was a car that carried not only the spirit of post-war engineering but also the romance of open-air motoring that defined an era. Sleek lines, chrome accents, wire wheels, and a throaty inline-six engine, it was more than a car, it was a statement of elegance and performance. For decades, these roadsters captured the imagination of enthusiasts worldwide, their growl echoing through countryside lanes and racing circuits alike. Today, surviving examples are rare, and fully restored ones even rarer still. That is why, when a 1965 Austin-Healey Mk3 early Phase 2 rolled into the workshop of Gassman Automotive, it wasn't just another restoration project, it was the revival of a legend. At first glance, the Healey carried all the signs of its age. Decades of use, storage, neglect, and exposure had left their marks. The once gleaming British racing green paint had dulled, its chrome details pitted, and its bodywork tired and weary. But beneath the dust and wear lay the bones of a car worth saving. The 3000 Mk3 was, after all, the pinnacle of the Healey line, the most luxurious, most refined, and most powerful version ever produced. With 150 horsepower from its 2.9-liter inline-six, improved brakes, and more comfortable interiors, it was a car built to take grand touring to another level. Gassman Automotive knew they weren't just restoring a car, they were preserving a piece of British motoring history. The process began, as all great restorations do, with disassembly. Every nut, every bolt, every panel was carefully removed, catalogued, and set aside. The car was stripped down to its bare chassis, revealing both the beauty and the scars of time. Rust, the eternal enemy of vintage automobiles, had claimed its share of territory, particularly in the sills, wheel wells, and floor pans. The craftsmen at Gassman were no strangers to this battle. Precision metalwork began, with corroded steel cut away and replaced with fresh, hand-formed panels. Each weld was executed with the accuracy of a surgeon, ensuring that the structure was not just cosmetically restored, but sound and strong, ready for decades of driving to come. Once the chassis and body panels were repaired, attention turned to alignment and fit. For a Healey, panel fit is everything. The flowing lines of Donald Healey's design only look right when every curve and crease meets perfectly. Doors were hung, checked, and rechecked to ensure proper gaps. The bonnet and boot lid were adjusted with millimeter precision. These are the kinds of details that separate a casual restoration from a concours-level rebuild. And at Gassman Automotive, compromise was not an option. With the bodywork straight and true, the car was prepared for paint. Unlike modern cars, classics like the Austin-Healey require painstaking preparation before a single drop of color is applied. Layers of primer were carefully sanded smooth, revealing surfaces as flawless as glass. Every imperfection was erased, every line sharpened. Then came the paint itself. A deep, rich finish chosen to match the Healey's original character. When the final coat was laid down, followed by hours of wet sanding and polishing, the Healey's body gleamed with a mirror-like brilliance, reflecting light the way it did when it first left the factory in Abingdon almost 60 years ago. But a Healey is not just about looks, it's about the sound and feel of the engine. The heart of this car was its 2.9-liter straight six, an engine that had earned its place in motorsport history. Stripped down to the last component, the engine was inspected, machined, and rebuilt. Pistons, rings, bearings, and seals were all renewed. The cylinder head was reconditioned, valves were reset, and the twin-Sue carburetors were meticulously restored to deliver fuel with smooth precision. When reassembled, the engine looked as good as it did on the showroom floor, but more importantly, it promised the performance and reliability that every Healey owner dreams of. The drivetrain, too, received equal attention. The 4-speed gearbox, complete with overdrive, was rebuilt to ensure crisp, confident shifts. The rear axle was refreshed, and the suspension restored with new bushings, springs, and shocks. Brakes were upgraded with rebuilt calipers and drums, ensuring that the car not only accelerated with vigor but also stopped with confidence. Every mechanical detail was considered, because in a Healey, the joy lies not just in looking at it, but in driving it, feeling the wind rush by as the engine sings through its rev range. Of course, a restoration of this caliber would not be complete without addressing the interior. The Mk3 was known for its more luxurious appointments compared to earlier Healeys, and Gassman Automotive set out to honor that heritage. The seats were carefully reupholstered in fine leather, their stitching done by hand with the same patterns used in the 1960s. The wooden dash, long faded and cracked, was refinished to a deep, glowing luster, while the Smith's gauges were rebuilt to function with period accuracy. New carpets were laid, door panels trimmed, and chrome fixtures polished until they sparkled. When completed, the cockpit exuded the charm of a grand touring machine, elegant yet purposeful, ready for both concours lawns and winding back roads. Final assembly brought together all these painstaking efforts. Piece by piece, the Healey was reborn. Chrome bumpers were mounted, wire wheels installed, lights aligned, and badges affixed. Each element was checked and rechecked until the car stood complete, a seamless blend of artistry and engineering. When the last bolt was tightened, what emerged from the Gassman workshop was no longer a tired relic of the past, it was a timeless classic, restored with passion, precision, and purpose. The moment of truth came when the restored Healey rolled out into the sunlight for the first time. Its bodywork sparkled, its lines perfect, its stance commanding. But it was when the key turned in the ignition and the engine fired to life that the true magic was felt. The straight six came alive with a growl that was both refined and feral, a sound that has thrilled drivers for generations. As the car pulled onto the open road, every gear change, every corner, every burst of acceleration was a reminder of why the Austin-Healey 3000 earned its place among the greatest sports cars of its time. Beyond the mechanics and the cosmetics, however, there was something deeper about this restoration. Cars like the Healey are more than machines. They are vessels of memory, carriers of culture, icons of design. They remind us of an age when driving was about more than getting from point A to point B, it was about the experience, the freedom, the joy of the journey. Restoring such a car is not just about preserving metal and rubber, it's about preserving a spirit, ensuring that future generations can see, hear, and feel what made these cars so special. Gassman Automotive understands this better than most. Their work on the 1965 Austin-Healey Mk3 Early Phase 2 was not just a technical exercise, but an act of respect for history. Every decision, every detail, every hour spent was guided by the desire to honor the car's legacy. The result is a restoration that does not merely recreate the past, it brings it forward into the present, alive and vibrant once again. In the end, the reborn Healey is more than the sum of its parts. It is a bridge between eras, a rolling piece of art that embodies the elegance of the 1960s and the craftsmanship of today. As it takes to the road once more, it carries with it not just the story of its original creation, but also the story of its rebirth, one written by the skilled hands and passionate hearts at Gassman Automotive. For those who see it, hear it, and perhaps even drive it, the car will continue to inspire. It stands as proof that legends never truly fade, that with care, dedication, and love for the craft, even the most time-worn classic can be restored to glory. The 1965 Austin-Healey Mk3 Early Phase 2 lives again, not as a relic, but as a living testament to the golden age of British motoring. And in its rebirth, it reminds us all why we fall in love with cars in the first place. So the story of this Healey does not end here. It lives on every time its engine starts, every time its wheels turn, and every time its driver feels the connection between man, machine, and road. This is not just restoration, it is resurrection. And as the sunlight dances across its polished curves, the legend of the Austin-Healey shines brighter than ever. Would you like me to make the narration slightly more cinematic and emotional, like a documentary voiceover, or more technical and detailed, focusing on engineering and restoration processes?